According to studies conducted by Kresley, population numbers of harbor seals have dramatically increased over the last 16 years in Long Island. To study changes in survival, reproduction, or haulage patterns, methods for identification are needed for effective conservation and management of harbor seals. This identification of individuals allows accurate tracking of their movements and distribution, and contributes to better population estimates for improved wildlife management and conservation planning. Tagging is a useful way of tracking these parameters. However, they are costly to researchers and invasive to the harbor seal. Photo identification techniques provide a practical and non-invasive method for studying changes in parameters within individuals such as harbor seals. On a general note, object recognition scenarios are not only crucial to this behavioral study of seals, but applicable to many scenarios in the world. This can range from this behavioral study of seals, or even the scenario of detecting criminals based solely on their facial features. To achieve success in these scenarios, however, there must be efficient algorithms that can perform these situations with minimal variety of data based on the algorithm. Several algorithms have been found in this field to accomplish these tasks. The SIFT, or Scale Invariant Feature Transform algorithm, was developed in 1999 by David Low at the University of British Columbia. This descriptor as well as related image descriptors are used for a large number of purposes in computer vision related to point matching between different views of a 3D scene and view-based object recognition. The SIFT descriptor is invariant to translations, rotations, and scaling transformations in the image domain, and robust to moderate perspective transformations and illumination variations. It requires the user to crop out the portion of the image to the size of the photo that has the markings. As shown by this guideline, they then categorize the object without the limits such as alignment nor scaling size of an object. The SIFT descriptor has been proven to be very useful in practical purposes for image mapping and object recognition under the real-world conditions, such as robotic mapping and navigation, as well as behavioral studies. Another algorithm is the CLASS method, which stands for Cognitive Level Annotation Using Latent Statistical Structure, developed by Vittorio Ferrari.
I'm Vittorio Ferrari, and I am part of the School of Informatics. I do research on computer vision. The grand goal is to make computers see. Let me show you an example. Let's say you gave this image to the computer. It should answer with things like it's a tennis scene. It should recognize objects in the image as belonging to certain categories like persons, racket, and ball, and localize them in the image. It should be able to say which special layout the people in the scene are taking on and use it to recognize actions that they are doing. But before it can do all these great things, the machine has to be trained into the visual appearance of those visual concepts. And the way we do it today, standard, is to have people carefully click on images to determine the location of objects. This is extraordinarily boring and very expensive. So the focus on my research is to reduce the amount of supervision by using other sources that are readily available. For example, online newspapers where newsmen wrote a caption about the image, or video, where the temporal continuity allows us to detect and track objects much more easily.
The class system works differently from the SIFT algorithm in that instead of meticulously cropping out the picture to the point of interest, it works by teaching the computer instead to recognize these variables with object classifications and parameters. Here is one example of the CLASS method learning attributes of a picture. It produces a histogram of the color, and then it identifies the difference between the two photos. Another algorithm that can be used is an algorithm that deals with shape matching, and it performs object recognition in accordance to these shape contexts. The measurement is defined by two problems given first to the software. One, solving for correspondences between points on two shapes, and two is using the correspondences to estimate an aligning transformation between these points. This figure shows an example of several images compared to three similar images, and like WildID, it displays the similarity scores based on the image. In 2006, Gordon studied 2D images and their relative position in 3D images. She helped fix the SIFT operator, by adding the element of invariance towards orientation. With David Low, they found a solution in working with the invariant local features to obtain point matches of a 2D image on a rigid 3D object scene. In 2012, Van Gool, a French scientist, worked on the scalable multi-class object detection in Leuven, Belgium. Van Gool tested the neighborhood searches portion of the class method with several classes of random objects found on the internet. Figure 10 shows the effective training with various optimization criteria illustrated. The purpose of this project is to utilize several object-oriented algorithms to modify and create software to assess capture-recapture study of harbor seals. And based on the works of Ferrari, Low, and Gordon, the new modified software will perform better than the WildID software and the I3S software used in the capture-recapture study. Data will be collected for the first few months of past raw-based images of Dr. Arthur Kopelman, head of the Kresley Society. The images will be used as a prior pilot study to test the new modified SIF software. After December when migrations start, images will be collected at Cubsock Beach at a week-to-week basis. This will be achieved using a Canon T2i Rebel camera with a 300mm lens. The 300mm lens will not be sufficient enough to take pictures of the harbor seal, based on previous studies, and a 2x converter will be needed as a cheap but effective way to replicate telescoping lens. Images will be collected in the RAW file, as images will then be converted to JPEG files, and these images will be put into the software. The new modified software will be based on 3 algorithms that are key in each software. The first is the SIF algorithm, which detects the key points of an image based on Gaussian filters at different scales combined together to detect key points. The next formula is with the class method, which detects the most salient attributes of an image based on color histograms. This was shown before with the color histogram being produced in the class method. The last formula is the shape context formula, which detects the difference between key points of images in forming shape context. The point is to be able to mesh these algorithms together to create a user-friendly software that is applicable to the pelage patterns of harbor seals, and see if this modified software will be able to outperform WildID software and the I3S software. Analysis and the efficiency of the algorithm will be compared to other softwares based on 2 principles which are key in biometric studies. The false acceptance rate is a formula that will be used to assess the efficiency of the program. It is the amount of false accepted images over the number of images in the database. The false rejection rate is in similar format, is that it is the amount of falsely rejected images over the number of images in the database. Analysis will also be done using a one-way t-test in SPSS with a p-value of less than 0.05. Thanks for watching.